Hey everyone, this is our detailed review of the ASUS ROG Zephyrus M15, which is one of the most interesting performance and gaming ultra-portable notebooks of the 2020 generation. It's available in a couple of different configurations, and ours gets a 6-core Intel i7 processor, Nvidia RTX 2070 Super graphics, and a 4K screen with 100% AdobeRGB coverage. There's also a 240Hz 3ms screen option though, the obvious choice for gamers, and we'll talk about it as well in the video. First though, let's touch on this laptop's design and ergonomics. ASUS offers the Zephyrus M15 in 3 versions. The brushed black model gets a magnesium interior and a brushed aluminum lid cover, with a black ROG logo, the exact same design implemented on the 2019 Zephyrus M and the 2020 Zephyrus S15. It also gets an RGB backlit keyboard with per key control. On the other hand, the Prism Black and Prism Grey versions, which are new for this generation, get the same magnesium interior, but with a different single-zone RGB backlit keyboard and a redesigned exterior. The big ROG logo has been replaced with a much more subtle ROG plaque placed in the corner, just like on the Zephyrus G14. And most of the lid is filled up with these prism dots, which light up in different colors based on how the light around shines upon them. The lid is made out of plastic on these prism models though, and overall these designs are 1mm thicker than the standard brushed black versions. As you figure out by now, our test unit is the Prism Black variant, but the Prism Grey model is what I'd primarily look at, as it will do a better job at hiding smudges and finger oil. Design aside, the Zephyrus M15 is a compact and lightweight 15-inch notebook at around 2 kilos or 4.4 pounds in this top-tier variant. It's also sturdily built, with little flex in the main deck or the screen, so a product that should age well. ASUS also made sure it is also comfortable and ergonomic in daily use. All the edges and the corners are blunted and easy on the wrists, and grippy rubber feet on the bottom keep this well in place. The bottom panel is also made out of plastic on these M15s and not from magnesium as on the Zephyrus S15, but I don't see how this would bother you in any way. While down here, you should know that the back feet are taller in order to allow improved airflow underneath. The cooling system takes air from the bottom and through the keyboard and blows it out through the exhaust on the back and the laterals, and we'll talk about the thermal performance in a bit. The display is held in place by 2 lateral hinges, and they allow to easily pick it up and adjust the angle with a single hand, while ensuring it doesn't wobble when typing. I still wish the screen could go past 145 degrees though, but that's not possible with this design. And while I'm nitpicking, I do have to mention that the status LEDs and the power button are still both backlit and placed beneath the screen, so you'll notice them when watching a movie in a dark room. I was hoping ASUS would implement the updated power button with an integrated finger sensor that they put on the G14, but they did not on this generation. The speakers haven't changed either. They fire through the belly and get fairly loud, but are the standard kind of middling quality speakers you'll get with gaming laptop these days, so don't expect much. Audio over the headphone jack is excellent though. When it comes to the I/O, ASUS finally included Thunderbolt 3 support on the Zephyrus lineup with video, data and charging. This adds up to the USB-A, HDMI and LAN connectors, and most of the ports are lined on the left edge with the USBs on the right. That means that the only things missing here are a card reader, as well as any sort of biometrics. Oh, and there's also no webcam, a common trait for the entire Zephyrus lineup, and while ASUS offers a good quality Full HD external webcam accessory, that's not included with the standard bundle and you'll have to buy it on the side. Now as far as inputs go, the M15 is available with 2 different keyboard options as mentioned earlier. The brushed black models get the per key RGB backlit keyboard also implemented on the Zephyrus S15, while the Prism models get a single-zone RGB keyboard. Aside from the obvious difference in RGB control, the layout is completely lit on the Prism models, including the F1 to F12 writing on the top row of keys, so finding the right function key in the dark is no longer a guessing game. At the same time, the light creeps out from under the keycaps with this design and annoyingly shines into the laptop's chin, something you'll notice when using the laptop at night. This aside, the 2 keyboards also feel differently in actual use. They're both low-stroke and fairly shallow implementations, the kind you should rather expect from an Ultrabook these days. But the Prism keyboard felt more accurate and softer to me, while the keys on the brushed black models are stiffer and require a more forceful press to properly actuate. I for one prefer the Prism implementation, but there's no guarantee you will too. For mouse, ASUS went with the same averagely sized glass clickpad centered on the chassis that they include on all their 15-inch Zephyrus models, a smooth and accurate surface with precision drivers. It works fine for a Windows laptop. The 2020 Zephyrus M15s are available with 3 screen options. The Full HD 144Hz panel is reserved for the lower tier configurations and most likely is the washed out option used on the base variants of the Zephyrus G15 as well, so I'd stay away from it if possible. The other two are either a 240Hz 3ms panel with 100% sRGB color coverage and roughly 300 nits of brightness, or a 4K 60Hz panel with 400 plus nits of brightness and 100% AdobeRGB color coverage. The 4K panel is the one we have on our review unit, and it's an excellent option for daily use and professionals that require color accuracy in their work. It also offers great viewing angles and uniformity, with little brightness variation and almost no visible light bleeding. The Full HD 240Hz panel is somewhat dimmer, so will struggle in bright environments, and also not as popping as the 4K model, but the obvious choice for gaming. It's also a more affordable option and allows the laptop to run for longer on a charge, so overall it is the best value choice on this M15. Check out the written review on the site for more details on all these panels, it's the first link in the description. Speaking of battery life, there's a 76Wh battery inside the M15, one of the smallest in this niche. Even with Optimus, don't expect more than 3 hours of multitasking and about 6 hours of video from this 4K screen configuration, but the Full HD models should last longer. A full-size power brick is required to power the components in this notebook, but USB-C charging is also supported. Okay, let's talk specs and numbers now. Our unit is a pre-release sample and certain aspects might change on the retail models, but it runs on retail software and it performed as I was expecting, that's why I'm confident sharing our findings with you. Specs-wise, this 2020 Zephyrus M15 gets a 6-core Intel Comet Lake i7 10750H processor, which is pretty much a 9th-gen 9750H with minor tweaks and the ability to run at higher clocks if properly cooled. An 8-core i7 processor option might also be available on this laptop in some regions, and we've reviewed that on a similar Zephyrus S15 chassis, and we'll include our findings in the video. The 10th-gen Intel platform also supports up to 3200 MHz DDR4 memory. Our unit gets 32GB of RAM with 16GB soldered on the motherboard. As for storage, there's a 1TB Intel 660p SSD on this model, the same kind you should expect on retail configurations. That's fast enough for daily use for gaming and most demanding applications, just know that you can replace it with a faster storage array if you think that would benefit your workloads. There are two M.2 SSD slots inside with RAID support. Accessing the components is a simple task. The laptop opens from the button and the D panel is held in place by a handful of Phillips screws. Heads up, ASUS uses several different screw sizes, so make sure to carefully note where each comes from so you can put them back in the right place. Inside you'll find a single RAM slot, the two SSD slots, the Wi-Fi module, the battery, the speakers and the complex thermal module. Specs aside, ASUS offers 4 power profiles for the Zephyrus M15. Turbo and manual are only available with the laptop plugged in and are meant for gaming and other demanding loads. Performance is a jack of all trades and what I'd recommend for daily multitasking and casual gaming, while silent is great for video and light use on battery. Onto our performance findings, we ran a couple of different tests on our review unit, from the standard synthetic benchmarks such as Cinebench R20 or Geekbench, to Blender SpecView Per for Handbrake, which simulate real-life work with professional applications and video encoding. We've also ran the combined 3D Mark tests and gathered all our results in these charts. Feel free to pause to see how the Zephyrus M15 scored and how it stacks against some of its competition. We've included the 8-core i7 in the Zephyrus S15, a 6-core i7 in the Predator Triton 500, a 6-core 2019 generation i7 in the 2019 Zephyrus M, and the Ryzen 4000 models inside the Zephyrus G14. More in-depth performance analysis and tests are available in the written review on the site, and I've added the link for you in the description. The Zephyrus M15 also does a good job at maintaining solid sustained performance in longer duration loads. However, as illustrated by our Cinebench loop test, the processor needs to run at around 65W on turbo in order to return the result it does. Undervolting with XTU or throttle stop is disabled, but there is an undervolting option in the BIOS. This allows up to minus 80mW voltage control, and our unit performed perfectly stable on this setting. Undervolting helps a little bit in sustained CPU loads, but overall the 10th-gen i7 10750H is more or less on par with a good 9th-gen i7 9750H implementation. However, based on our experience with the Zephyrus S15, the 8-core i7 is going to provide roughly 20% higher scores in these demanding loads. Now, as far as gaming goes on this laptop, we ran a couple of titles on several different power profiles and resolutions, and gathered our findings here. Take a moment to go through them. And here's how this Zephyrus M15 compares to a couple of other portable gaming laptops in games such as Far Cry 5, Witcher 3, Shadow of Tomb Raider or Red Dead Redemption 2. ASUS allows the RTX 2070 Super on this laptop to run at up to 105W in certain titles, and that puts this configuration within 10% of the top-tier RTX 2080 Super implementations in the Zephyrus S15 and the Predator Triton 500 in most games, with some titles benefiting more from the RTX 2080 such as Shadow of Tomb Raider. Undervolting doesn't help much here though, unlike on the RTX 2080 configurations. As far as thermals go, both the CPU and GPU run fairly hot on turbo. The CPU peaks at temperatures in the high 80s in Far Cry 5 and high 70s in Witcher 3 and Red Dead Redemption 2, and the GPU averages low 80s in these titles, while the fans ramp up to about 51 to 52 dB at head level. Gaming on the performance profile tames down the fans to about 46 to 47 dB at head level and slightly limits the GPU performance, while the temperatures show little variations. Finally, gaming on silent further quiets down the fans to about 38 to 39 dB at head level, but also further limits the performance. Playing games on silent is still perfectly possible here, with the CPU constantly running at 50 to 60 Watt and without experiencing any thermal throttling. The laptop's interior chassis hits temperatures in the low 50s in the hottest parts around the heat pipes, but the lower half and the WSD and arrow keys stay within comfortable high 30s. The bottom gets even hotter in a small area around the heat pipes, hitting 60 plus degrees, but most of the panel stays much cooler even when running games. Gaming aside, both fans remain active all the time, even with light use, and they spin quietly on the silent and performance modes, so are pretty much inaudible even in a quiet room. You will however hear them if you keep the laptop on turbo while plugged in. All in all, this 2020 ASUS Zephyrus M15 refines on the 2019 M series with the updated and more powerful hardware, new screen options, Thunderbolt 3 support, a redesigned exterior and a slightly revamped keyboard. Performance-wise, I wouldn't expect much to have changed when comparing similar GTX 1660 Ti or RTX 2060 configurations, but the 2020 model is also available in a powerful RTX 2070 Super version, which to me makes more sense in this sort of a chassis than the full-power 150W RTX 2070 implementation in the Zephyrus S15. On top of that, creators are also offered the option for a color-accurate 4K panel now, which was not available before and is not available for the S15. We'll compare this Zephyrus M15 to the S15, G15 and the smaller G14 model in a separate video. On the other hand, there are still some features missing here, such as biometrics or great speakers, and the M15 still comes along the last in this segment in terms of battery life. Finally, you should also consider pricing in your decision, and I can't conclude on that for now, as the laptop is not yet widely available in stores yet. If competitive, this could end up an excellent choice in its class, despite the fierce competition out there. We're going to have a proper roundup comparison of all these performance ultraportables once we get to test them all, so look forward for our updates. Anyway, this pretty much wraps up our review of the 2020 ASUS ROG Zephyrus M15, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on this product. Get in touch in the comment section, hit the thumbs up button if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe to our channel to get notified when we publish more videos. Catch you later.